and help us understand what is going on astrologically, still impacting us and this coronavirus. So, Pam,
Right.
tell us what's going on right this coming week, because
Okay.
I read your post today and I
Mhm.
see that things like Chiron, the great wounded healer, is in there. Maybe you
Mhm.
could give us a little help.
Sure. So, well, this is such a big event. I mean, it extends much further than this week, of course. In fact, if you go back to, there's been an astrologer who went back and found out that the first reported case in Wuhan was actually, December 31st or somewhere in there. So really is linked back to the very beginnings of all of this Saturn-Pluto alignment, which was very strong, and the eclipse season that was very strong in December and January. So, but this coming week, we have a new moon, and so opportunity for new beginning. And the new moon is in Aries, and it's very close. The sun and the moon, when they align, are very close to Chiron. And Chiron is this wounded healer energy that's now a part of our solar system. It also orbits around the sun. And so my sense of this, certainly it makes a lot of sense that all of our focus right now is on health issues. It's just all pervasive and it's global. Um, there are probably lots of people who live in other circumstances that are not tuned into this, but in general, it's really a global event. So Chiron gives us the opportunity to, first of all, expose a wound and then do some healing on it. So to see that involved in the new moon, I feel is very hopeful. It kind of gives us a sense of forward motion rather than necessarily being stuck where we are. My sense of this specifically and how it's amped up is that really this whole viral pandemic, if you want to call it that, it's very related to Jupiter and Pluto aligning. So Pluto is said to be associated with viruses. Jupiter makes things huge, it makes them really big. And those two planets are going to align for the first time on April 4th. So we're really almost to the peak of that energy. So if we think about this new moon it's very early Tuesday morning Pacific time, then we've got that 4-week lunar cycle. That takes us through that Jupiter-Pluto alignment, which is April 4th, and almost to the end of April. I think the next new moon in Taurus is April 22nd. So my hope is not that we'll be completely done with all of this, but that there is a peak that we're working with during this lunar cycle, and especially around the time of the Jupiter-Pluto alignment. And there are other things, I look at the calendar for the end of the month. It's such a huge time. I think when you and I did that 6-month class back in January, Elsie, when we looked forward to the next 6 months, somebody asked me then, well, where do you feel like the most challenges are? And I did say the last 2 weeks of March and the first couple of weeks of April. So we are in that crunch time now. So even though it doesn't feel good, astrologically, it makes sense that we've got a lot going on. And this week also, we've got the planet Jupiter, again, the great magnifier, is going to be in a hard aspect with Eris, and Eris is the goddess of discord. And so we can see that things are very unsettled throughout this week. A lot of push and pull. Are we battling each other? Are we battling the virus? But there's a sense of kind of combativeness that's a part of this week as well. However, we also have, and I know I talked a lot about this in the webinar that we did, we've got Pallas Athena starting to strengthen as well. Pallas Athena is the goddess of healing and wisdom, and she's a very strong energy. Jupiter is going to align with her next Saturday, the 28th, And I feel like this is really a bright spot of hope also, because this is, inventive new solutions and being able to see the patterns and put things together and find some answers. So my sense, my hope is that this comes in very strongly, not only, towards the end of this week, but then is a big part of what helps us move through some of the challenges as we're going forward into the first half of April. So how does that feel? Does that explain some things?
Yes, that does give us some insight. And I have a question from Valerie Baker Easley. She said that she has read that this new moon is a tipping point. She said, do you see that in the chart?
Well, I think the timing of it makes it pivotal. Astrologically, the new year is when the sun goes into Aries in Western astrology, which is the equinox that we just had last week. And so this is the first new moon of the new year, the new astrological year. And as such, it's really, kind of puts an imprint on this time. As far as it being a tipping point, it's possible that whoever Valerie was reading about was seeing that emphasis on Chiron. So of course, with Chiron, we're aware of the wound before we heal. So we're well aware of the illness, aware of the disease. There were going to be a tipping point. I feel like it really is more of the actual Jupiter-Pluto alignment, but of course, we're in the energy of that already. There's no separating out today from tomorrow, from next week, from early April. It's all a part of a larger energy force, energy wave that we're working with, that we're riding right now. So I don't know if that at all addresses the question, but that's my thinking on it.
Yeah, I think that gives us a better sense. Pam, is there a way that we, not only individually, but collectively, globally, where is our self-accountability in all of this?
I think that's a great question. Personal accountability, especially for anyone who sees themselves as being more spiritually based, more in tune with higher purposes and everything. The personal accountability to me is really finding the way to be our higher selves throughout this time. Doing the inner work that's needed so that we don't get caught up in the fear, because it's huge fear. I mean, I can wake up in the middle of the night and I'll not be thinking about anything in particular, but I'm aware of kind of this strong tension. So I think the mass consciousness right now is just so thick with fear that it's hard to move away from that. But personal accountability, we want to make sure that our world and our perspective and our actions are not defined by that mass of fear. And we also want to do our best to, shift it within us, shift it in how we move through our day. There's lots of things that we can do. Elsie, I know you've posted some great tapping exercises that I've found really helpful. And there are all these things that we can do that really calm the sympathetic nervous system, which is what puts us in fight or flight. And this is really where we want to put our focus. If we look at and I've read this in a lot of channeled and written materials last couple of weeks, that the epidemic is really fear. Yes, it's manifesting in the virus, but the epidemic is fear. So how do we interrupt that epidemic in our own lives, in our own minds, in our own approach? So for me, I'm checking the news periodically, but I also realize that every time I do, I kind of dip down. So I'm staying apprised of what I need to know, but I'm not diving in, drilling into every nuance of the story that, bless the news media. Their job is to keep us excitable and excited. But if we don't want to go there, we need to make some choices about what we listen to, the food we feed our brains, all of those things, and of course, taking good care of our body. The more we can, I think I wrote this a couple of weeks ago in the journal, this whole idea that to stay healthy, the best thing you could do is sit down and put your feet up and have a good laugh. It's kind of that softening, soothing that sympathetic nervous system again, so that the healing within the body, the immune system, can really be at full force. Because we're in fear. When we're in fear, the immune system goes down. And I mean, this makes sense to me, but I just read it this week that if you eat sugar, which we tend to do when we're under stress, we just dive for the sweet stuff because it's just like, oh, I want something that feels good. But evidently for several hours, I read somewhere 5 hours, but I don't know if that's true. For that amount of time after we eat sugar, our immune system dips. So we think we're really benefiting ourselves and helping us feel better emotionally, but actually it's not helpful on lots of different levels. I don't know how I don't know. That was the thread that I pulled somewhere. I don't know where we got started or if that ended up anywhere.
Well, that certainly speaks. I have to admit, I had some ice cream in the house, and I had some, and then I had to dump the rest in the sink because I knew I was going to get carried away if I didn't. Please say a little bit more about Pallas Athena, because she seems to be a light in the darkness, and I love to hear you talk about her.
Yeah, I just feel like she feels like such a friend. And maybe that's partly because she's in the 4th house of my own chart, and the 4th house is where we have home and family. So she feels like a part of my family, maybe. But she is this wise goddess. She's very androgynous. She's a feminine figure, but she's very strong. She's the goddess of healing. She's the goddess of strategy. Goddess of wisdom. She had the owl on her shoulder, so she could see form where others could see only darkness. She had the serpents of wisdom and knowledge wrapped around her feet, so really grounded in deep wisdom. And she's in Capricorn. I mean, seems like everything's in Capricorn right now, but Jupiter is, Pluto is, Mars is, Saturn just moved into Aquarius. But Pallas Athena is also in Capricorn, and her gifts, while she's in that sign, have to do with really being able to see the patterns, see the structures that need to be put into place for solutions. And I also love her because she, in our birth charts, represents kind of this gift that we have, almost a talent that we don't necessarily have to work hard at. It's just a part of our nature. And it's just, like I said, it feels like a gift. So I feel like she is a gift. And at this time, I feel like she is a gift. I've said this before, but I think of the Jupiter-Pluto alignment, these two masculine gods, pounding away at whatever needs to be changed and having a big conference about it. And Pallas Athena is standing over their shoulders with wisdom and grace and confidence and calm, kind of saying, okay, yes, we need these bigger changes, but here's how to do it in a more balanced way, a more structured way, a more positive way. So I just feel like she offers some very nice energies at this time when there's so much upheaval going on.
Yeah, it feels like she softens things. And I've also seen photos of her with a spear and a shield. So she's a little bit of everything, as you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was a goddess. She taught Achilles and the other gods, the other young gods, the art of war.
Hmm.
So, but it was more about the strategy of war, not the, dash them up kind of thing, but the strategy. So that's what her gift is.
So this coming week,
Mm-hmm.
this new moon you indicated seems like a new beginning. And I always encourage people to write their abundance check on the new moon, but what are some other things you feel that we can do to help us move forward? Because we certainly need to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is in this new moon is in Aries, so it's about having the courage of our convictions. So if we believe that, we are ultimately safe and guided, or, any other spiritual support systems that we have, if we truly believe that, finding ways to shore that up. Aries isn't afraid of being true to self, of being forthright, of being a leader, of being a pioneer. There's a lot of courage, and certainly this time is asking for us all to have a lot of courage in how we, approach what's going on. And because, like I said, the astrological new year started with the equinox, this is that first new moon after the equinox, and it is in Aries, the first sign of the 12 signs of the zodiac. So it's a powerful time to set a larger intention. And not that abundance checks can't be a large intention, but especially with Chiron involved, we want to think, okay, what is the healing that I want to embody now?
Yeah.
What is the courage that I want to embody now? And, calling in the guidance that helps us go forward through these next steps that we all are moving through. And, if we're asking for help, Chiron in Aries can show up when we're kind of insecure. That's part of the wound of Chiron in Aries, is feeling insecure, uncertain, kind of wanting to hide away. So each of us working for ourselves to say, how do I help my scared inner child? I always go to inner child work with Chiron. How do I help my scared inner child feel safer? And when she does, then she becomes an ally, and you can walk together with greater courage with her, holding her hand, holding his hand. So I like the idea of abundance checks, but I would almost make it confidence checks, or healing checks, or, something like that. A little bit of a variation of theme: abundance of healing, abundance of courage, abundance of confidence, abundance of inner fire. Aries is a fire sign, and it's, the fire signs are spirit signs. It's that essence, it's that inspiration. So using that new moon energy to call in inspiration to whatever the next step might be for you personally, that's going to be the key to your healing. And it's great because, I don't know if people know this, but each one of the planets has a glyph. The symbol for Venus is the feminine sign. The symbol for Mars is the masculine sign that we're so familiar with. The symbol for Chiron looks like an old-fashioned skeleton key. It's on its head, but that's what it looks like. And so we look at Chiron as being the key to healing. So if the key to healing, at least partly now, is being true to self and having courage and doing that kind of inner child work, that's something to consider as we're looking at how to use the energies of the new moon.
That's perfect, Pam. Now, I want to remind everyone that Pam puts out a weekly journal every Sunday afternoon, and you can sign up for that at her website, northpointastrology.com. So, Pam, also tell us how someone can get in touch with you for a personal reading if they want to see where all of this is landing in their personal chart.
Oh, sure, of course. So the best way to reach me is by email. So that's Pam at northpointastrology.com. All one word, no eaves on point or anything. It's all very straightforward. So yeah, Pam at northpointastrology.com. I try to get back, within 24 hours. Sometimes I write back and say, okay, I've got people on the list trying to schedule. I'll send you a list of appointment times as soon as I can. That's happening a lot right now, but I will, respond as soon as I can, and we'll get in touch and get you on the calendar.
Thanks, Pam. And I just want to also thank Denise McFerrin again she also joined us, and Valerie commented that the real epidemic is fear. So true, something you said a little earlier. I want to take a moment to read that quote that you had, not in this week, but last week's journal, which said, "You can transform the world around you through love, which is absolutely the only and the greatest healer of all. And that's your power." And that was Dr. Pebbles channeling through Summer Bacon. And I will put her information below if you want to find out a little bit more about her channeled info on coronavirus.
Yeah,
So thanks so much.
Well, thank you, Elsie. It's so great to see you and talk with you. And I love we can do this, and you're in New Jersey and I'm in Washington, and there you go.
Yeah, I love this technology. We're so fortunate. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're going to sign off and have a great week ahead, and keep calling on Chiron and Pallas Athena and all those great planets and spiritual teachers that we have out there. Thanks, Pam.
Thank you.